Welcome back. Our computer case is finally finished and you can see how it looks now. Let's check out if everything works well. In our case, it is a closure that needs to be examined a bit, and it seems like everything is just right. But so far, let's take a quick look at the work that has been done during all these stages that we've been through. We started with an idea of the product and we've talked about inspiration a bit. Later we transformed it into the visual object on our mood board, and it has become our guideline for further creation. We also made some sketches on the paper and tried different ideas and proportions in the computer program. But the most important part is that during this stage we have already started to think through the assembling technology. By doing that, you can estimate how it will be to make it real, what materials and tools you have available for that. If something of your design is not possible to perform, you would want to know it in advance, so you can make some changes and adjust the design to your limitations. And if it seems hard to estimate in the very beginning of creation, making a pattern is a great help. You use the pattern not only for the cutting process, you also use the pattern to see the details in the real scale and see how they work together. So we made a cardboard pattern for all of the details and use it to cut out our details of the letter. The point that we use a vegetable tan letter for this project is another important moment, and it will affect each step of the treatment, starting from the way you place your details on the surface, for example, or how you process the edges later. Almost all of the cutting I made using the edge of the pattern as a guide. I also use a ruler for straight lines and the corner ruler and the rounder for the corners. As all of the details were in front of us, we could double check their relation and if it was correct. We could also check the overall look of the case and figure out what we need to do to prepare the details for assembly. One of the stages in our journey was devoted to embossing and the science of this procedure. We learned a bit how it works on the different types of leather and surfaces and embossed one of the details of the case. We also used the creasing machine for one of the edges, but frankly speaking, we could crease all around each detail. During the stage of preparation, we devoted plenty of time for edge treatment, because if you work with vegetable tan leather, you have to know how to treat edges to make them look good. So we rounded the corners using the edge beveler, used the sandpaper for polishing, used the dye to make edges dark brown, and finally burnish it with the burnishing tool and wax-based liquid. Of course, we could choose to use an edge paint for edges, but in this project we worked with vegetable tan leather and I decided that the dye would be better. So step by step we've been preparing all the details for further assembly. An important part of the process was the work on the thickness of our details. In leather working, it is an essential subject, as you always need to think about where you have to reinforce and add the thickness or where you have to reduce it. In our project, we reduced the thickness of some details with help of machines, but I want to assure you that it could be done even by using a hand tool like a French beveler, for example. It might just take more time, and at the same time I wanted to show you how the splitting with the pattern works in practice. During the production process, I even decided to change the appearance of the details that has an embossing on it, because I understood that it needs a bit more interesting look. And it is one more moment that is good to keep in mind, because you can always realize that something might look better if you do it a bit differently. We haven't talked much about the installation of the snap buttons while we were doing that. However, it is something that is not very hard to learn as soon as you have and can pick the right tool set for the right buttons. And after that, we came forward to the main action that we had been preparing for so long, assembling. We talked a bit about the importance of scratching and started with assembling the detail of the front, first gluing parts together and then stitching them. As you know, I chose to stitch everything on the sewing machine, but frankly speaking, to do it by hand might be a bit better and more relevant solution for this product, and perhaps it would affect the appearance of the computer case positively. Besides, vegetable tan leather of this thickness is especially suitable for subtle seam. But I did it differently, and it was more subjective choice because I prefer hand stitching when the machine is not possible to use. For example, if it is hard to reach the area where the stitching is going to be. And it takes less time when you know how to use a sewing machine. And generally, I do not think the computer case looks much worse than it could with hand stitching. And then, when the front and the back parts were finally assembled and stitched together, we needed to finish edges and make them look nice and smooth. After the edges were equalized, I cleaned it from the glue leftovers and rounded the corners using the edge beveler. Then we came back to polishing and burnishing activities. But at the time, we were working with several layers and it took some effort. I didn't use any machinery here in spite of the fact that I could, but this is another personal choice of me. Besides, we worked only with the one item, and as the edge treatment plays a crucial role in leatherworking, it is always better to learn to do it by hand first. And when the case is done, the only thing left is just to clean it a bit and make the surface shiny. So it was a long walk, but I hope you enjoyed it. It is very satisfying to see the results of your work, especially if you planned it properly, thought everything through, and it turned out as well as you planned. And here we have Andy finally getting it. I guess he looks happy. What would you feel if someone gave you a gift designed and made for you personally? So now we're finally done with the first item, and I hope I managed to introduce the creative process as properly as possible so you get an understanding of that. But we're not done learning, so we're moving further to the next part of our course where we're going to work with the chrome tanned leather now. See you there!